Well, let's look at other bryophytes. Bryophytes. The word bryophytes in general, in a broad sense, means non-vascular plants with dominant gametophyte. There are three phyla of bryophytes, one of which is called Bryophyta in the narrow sense. Those are mosses, but the other bryophytes are hornworts and liverworts. Hornworts are in the phylum Anthoceratophyta, and liverworts are in the phylum Mercantia. And they have dominant gametophytes, and they are non-vascular and less abundant than mosses, but still a part of our flora. First, let's look at hornworts. Hornworts are fairly uncommon, and there's only 2 or 3 species in Ohio. They're a primarily tropical group, but they're still not as big a group worldwide as the mosses or the liverworts. Hornworts have a gametophyte that looks sort of like some liverworts, being flat and undifferentiated. That's the gametophyte. The sporophyte of hornworts, in many instances, as the name implies, is like a horn, like a little stick sticking up. And that's true for this particular hornwort. And the gametophyte is down at the bottom, and the sporophytes stick up. They are very unlike other sporophytes. They release their spores by splitting at the top, and they actually grow from the base, which is kind of unusual. Most plants grow from the tip, but hornwort sporophytes have basal meristems instead of apical meristems. There's another hornwort that grows in Ohio that it doesn't look as much like a hornwort as you'd expect, because the sporophytes, instead of being upright, are lay flat and are inconspicuous, and it kind of looks like a lot even more like a liverwort. But this is it. This is called Notophilus Orbicularis, and the sporophytes are here. Here's a labeled diagram showing the sporophytes kind of laying flat, and here it is mixed in with some mosses. Hornworts are uncommon. Some of them grow in disturbed sites, or both of them grow often in disturbed sites, like drainage ditches and the edges of farm fields, and sometimes on rocks and streams. Liverworts. Liverworts aren't as numerous as mosses. There's about 1/3 as many in Ohio, and probably worldwide too. Some of them have undifferentiated thallose growth form that is said to look like a liver, and others are leafy and could easily be mistaken for mosses. Like mosses and other bryophytes, the gametophyte is the dominant stage. The sporophytes of many liverworts are very short-lived and sort of transitory, easy to miss. And let's take a look at some liverworts. We'll start by looking at liverworts that look kind of livery, I guess. This is the most famous liverwort. It's called Mercantia Polymorpha, and it's the most famous because, well, it is widespread. It occurs around the world, but it also occurs as a weed in greenhouses and nurseries, so it's easy for teachers to get in university and other settings, and it's also the one that shows up, therefore, in most textbooks. It's a complex thallose liverwort, so the gametophyte part of it is actually several cells thick, and it has some air chambers and has pores on the top. It's fairly intricate, at least microscopically. What you might think are sporophytes, the upright structures, they're not exactly sporophytes. What they are gametangiophores. They're elevated structures that are gametophyte tissue, and the undersurfaces of which are where the gametangia are. And in this picture, there's these merely scalloped ones, and they're male gametangia produce sperm on the undersurfaces of those. And these really deeply scalloped ones that look like palm trees, that's where the gametangia that contain the eggs are, the archegonia, and then later the sporophytes with just a very short to non-existent seta and a large, comparatively, sporangium occur on the undersurface. So the sporophytes occur on the undersurface of the lobes of this palm tree-like thing. The palm tree-like thing itself is actually gametophyte tissue. Sometimes it's called a receptacle. Mercantia also reproduces asexually. So this particular little lobe, big lobe actually, has these birds nest-like things, and the little eggs are gemmy, and they can break apart or be splashed out. These are splash cups to form new plants. Here's a very well-known and widely distributed Phallus liverwort, and it is here grown with some mosses. It's called Conucephalum. It grows on sandstone and on limestone. If you have a chance to break off a little piece of it and smell it, has this really interesting citrusy kind of grapefruit smell. And here's Conucephalum with the I hesitate to say sporophytes, because these are female receptacles or gametangiophores, and on the undersurface of the little mushroom head, there are some sporangia that are developing, and that's where the sporophytes are. They're tucked in the undersurface of these caps. Here's another complex Phallus liverwort that produces these gametangiophores, and in this particular one, the sperm are produced in these little pads, so they're not on elevated structures, but the eggs are produced in the undersurface of these umbrella-like structures, and that's where the sporangia develop. Here's a picture of another instance of that species, and again, so this is a sporangium. Here is a sporangium. It's right in the undersurface of these umbrella-like caps are sporangia. So the entire thing is a gametangiophore, and the gametes and later the sporangia are on the undersurface. A complex Phallus liverwort. This particular one, by the way, is called Robulia hemispherica. There are simple Phallus liverworts that are thinner, don't have that complicated tissue with the air spaces, and simple Phallus liverworts, like leafy liverworts, have fairly short-lived and simple sporophytes compared to mosses. So this is the sporophyte of this liverwort, and it's got a seta, which is sort of translucent and gelatinous, very short-lived. It only lasts for a day or two, and it elongates fairly rapidly. And in the top is the sporangium, without any complicated calyptra or operculum or peristome, and it bursts open and releases spores. Here are some pictures of the liverwort sporophytes that some of which, like this one for example, has burst open to release its spores. It's got these little frilly things mixed in with it, which are these cells that called elaters that go to like spring with changes in humidity and help disperse the spores. Most liverworts, though, don't look like a liver, and you could mistake them for mosses. In addition to that sporophyte difference, where they're short-lived without any of those accessory structures like the calyptra and the operculum and the peristome, liverwort gametophytes, well, they tend to be dorsally ventrally arranged with three rows of leaves, two on the sides that are typically large, and one on the undersurface that is typically small. So they have that sort of flattened aspect. The other thing about liverworts, leafy liverworts, is that compared with mosses, the leaves can be a little more intricate. Sometimes they can be lobed, which in our area moss leaves never are. Sometimes they're deeply folded and elaborate. So liverwort leaves can be a little bit more complicated. I guess it makes up for how drab their sporophytes are. Here's a famous one. It's called Byzania trilobita. It grows on the ground in hemlock forests, also on rocks. Here are two leafy liverworts. The one on the right especially, look how intricate those leaves are. They're deeply concave, they're lobed, they have these filiform projections. They kind of look like little sailboats in a big with billowed sails. That's called Noelia Curvifolia. The one on the left is a little less intricate, but striking nonetheless. Here's a very famous liverwort that you've probably seen without realizing it's a liverwort. It's very common on the bark of deciduous trees in open woodlands. It looks kind of like sprawling, kind of like some scribbles. And it's called Frulania. And Frulania has underleaves that are shaped like little flasks. In this particular one, and often this is the case, is inhabited by a rotifer. So this is the this is the undersurface of one of those Frulania liverworts. This barely in focus is the one of the upper leaves, and this is the. Oh, I'm mistaken. This is actually not. This is not a lower leaf. This is actually a lobe of the upper leaf. The lower leaves are present, but not shown in this picture. These leaves are deeply lobed, and the lower lobe is shaped like a flask. And in this particular instance, there's a rotifer. I'll label it R-O-T-I. Ran out of space. So that's a little introduction to the other bryophytes, hornworts and liverworts.